I'm your host, Carlton French, here with my good friend, Cole Moon. Cole, how you doing today, man?
You know what? It's actually a nice day. I grew up in a household where one side of my family is Buddhist and one side of my family is Christian. I was always in this identity crisis of understanding what direction of life I wanted to go. Minimize the things that are not benefiting you that was in the past and focus on the quality of life that you want currently right now. We want good role models that inspire us to be much better than who we are right now. If you don't want the bad influence, because you don't want to have that type of influence where people are always encouraging that type of lifestyle, where it's always partying, clubbing, spending a lot of money, making a lot of money, and spending more than what you have. I'm focusing on myself and the quality relationship. Again, it goes back to quality and quantity because that's my biggest emphasis for this year.
Challenge yourself constantly.
You have to be a little bit patient.
I felt like I was in a hole looking up.
The whole idea is you have to become content in singleness.
I'd be lying if I said I haven't fired off some Instagram DMs.
The word dating is not mentioned in the Bible.
I dedicated my life at Tomorrow World to Jesus.
Welcome to the Single Man Podcast, where we delve into candid conversations with Christian men about their journey to faith, advice for their younger selves, and navigating dating. With a heart to reach men from all walks of life, dive into real stories of redemption, growth, and the hope found in following Jesus. I'm your host, Carlton French, a 29-year-old single Christian, and I'm excited for you to listen to this week's episode. Let's jump into it. Hey, welcome to the Single Man Podcast. I'm your host, Carlton French, here with my good friend, Cole Moon. Cole, how you doing today, man?
You know what? It's actually a nice day. The only reason I say that is because, everything feels, after a work day, very relaxed, very chill, being able to just, talk a little bit too, and just having some time to take a deep breath.
Yeah, love that. Thanks for coming on today, Cole. I'm excited for the audience to hear a little bit about your story, and I think it's been really cool getting to know you recently and the part you've played in the podcast and kind of helping me with some of the vision setting for it and the editing and creative pieces and just getting to know your story more. It's been really cool how you're 26 now and you grew up in Athens, Georgia, and now you live in Sandy Springs and work as a marketing specialist here in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And you have some cool hobbies. You love traveling, you were telling me, which is amazing. And you love content creation in general. And so I think your story was also unique to me when you were telling me about it, how you grew up in a household where you had one parent who was Buddhist and one parent who was Christian. Mm-hmm. And you were trying to figure out all the way up until last year kind of what you really believed and what you felt like God, or was there a God, was speaking to you and your spirituality. And so you got baptized last year, mm-hmm. which is amazing. And congratulations on that.
No, that was probably the most epic moment I ever had and experienced. I literally came out of that water. It was warm, but I felt like a whole brand new person. It was amazing.
Wow.
but definitely it was a waterworks show though, because it was just really quickly dunk and then come back out. And it was it feels like going to Whitewater or going to some water park. It was awesome.
Yeah. There you go. I like that. And so for people that don't know you, Cole, give them a little bit of flavor kind of this last week. What's been something that's been, a high that's happened? What's been a low you've been working through recently?
Oh, man. The biggest high for me right now is being able to travel a little bit more, planning out my travel trips. I mean, my entire calendar is probably filled with different places, going from inside of the state, going to different countries. I mean, that's probably the biggest high because I get enjoyment out of that. Just building an itinerary, going to different states, to different countries, and just really figuring out where can I go and travel next and what God's wanting me to see.
Yeah.
It's awesome. That's my biggest high. I get so much enjoyment. You'll probably see me sit down for hours and I'll start researching all these different areas and like, oh, like, did you know that there's this place we can go to? Did you know that there's this restaurant going at this price and they serve this type of food? I will search and search and search, and I will not get off for hours. So that's like my biggest all-time high.
Yeah.
Probably the low is definitely just getting bogged down with a lot of work, not just at my workplace, but mostly just with other projects I'm taking onto the side, because sometimes I can get a little bit overwhelmed by those things and just feel like I'm being consumed by too much work where it affects my daily life a little bit. So I'm trying to catch myself a little bit more easily with that and say, hey, we got to back it up a little bit and like be patient, still give out the good quality and everything, but don't feel too pressured and like everything's falling apart, because it's not. And that's probably like the low for me, because I can get a little frustrated from those type of things when it starts to build up and build up and build up, and I feel like there's no solution. So I have to be very patient with that. And it's gotten a little bit better. Most recently it's gotten better, so I'm getting a little bit breather room.
Yeah, that's good. I feel like a lot of guys deal with that. There's so many different priorities and competing things for our time, right? As young men. So what's been something that you've been able to kind of incorporate to help take some of the burden off this week?
Man, realistically, it's just going workout, treating yourself a little bit, taking a breather, saying like, hey, can I take a break for this week from whatever project you're doing? If it's a personal partnership, or whether if it's work related, say, hey, I just need a little breather room. It's okay to ask, because your personal health is more important than you being physically unable to do any of these things. You want to be able to keep on doing these things with higher quality, but if your body, if your mind, you're just all deteriorated, just take time to yourself, step back, relax, and go out and enjoy things that make you happy. Like for me, for example, I like to go hiking. I love hiking a lot, and taking photos and cooking, something that lets me enjoy quality time as much as possible.
Yeah, that's great. I have this like quote in my head right now. It's I don't remember where I heard it, but it was, I'm too busy not to pray. Like I have so much going on, I have to start the day in prayer, or else you won't have time to pray. But praying, I feel like, gives you a good sense of, what's happening in life, how to like expectation set with God and just like center you on the day.
It's a good starting point. Like that's the first thing I always do every single morning, because I always say, if you don't have time to pray, then you don't have time for anything else, right? And it's not saying is that you are not able to do it. When you start off good with your mornings, right, then everything else will fall into place. So praying is a big aspect, because it helps you start thinking, like you said, it starts kind of gets you in that motion and really figuring out like, how's your day going? How's your life going? How's your week going? What do I need to kind of think and communicate with God with, and how can I start off my day well? I remember there was this video of this admiral from the Navy, and he said the first thing you should start every single morning, same concept that we're talking about, first thing you should start is to make your bed. And he emphasized that every single time. He said that all of his recruits and anybody that goes into basically military training, they have to make their bed. And that's an essential aspect of military life, because they said as long as you get that one task done, then everything else should fall into place, because you want to start achieving goals more and more and more. Same thing here. Praying first thing, it helps grow our faith and start to realize how our life can fall into place by the direction of God and what he wants us to see, where he wants us to go, and how he wants us to do things in life. So we can live more prosperously. Yeah.
So speaking of God, Cole, so I kind of teased it at the beginning, but you came to faith last year in belief in Jesus and got baptized. Kind of give the audience a little bit of your background, like how you grew up and your parents having different religions. How did all that kind of play into your upbringing?
Man, it's a that's a big story that you wanted to pull out of me. Man, it's so
Just
long.
right to the heart of who Cole is.
Right. For me, I will just say this in the short end of the lifespan that I took.
Yeah.
It was a journey. I went through a lot of trials to get to the point of where I'm at right now. It was not just instantly overnight. It was a lot of struggle, a lot of difficulty, a lot of challenges, a lot of things that God tested me on to get me to the point of where my faith and my relationship with Him and with Christ is at an all-time high. It's at a whole nother level. It's when I tell you God will challenge you to get closer to Him, He will do that in all grand scheme of things because He wants to have that good relationship with you. So starting off when in my household, I grew up in a household where one side of my family is Buddhist and one side of my family is Christian. I love them both to death. They both have great values. They all have great things in their lives, right? But there was a lot of conflict going back with beliefs and how we view life and how we do things and how do we understand our life surroundings. So I was always in this identity crisis of like understanding like what direction of life I wanted to go. It wasn't until when I was around 12 years old, I started getting plugged into church because my cousin had brought me over to a church in a small town. And he was like, yeah, come to church. I was like, I didn't even know what that was at first. I was like, okay, cool, I'll go.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I was always plugged into church some form of way up until now. Because, the amount of people that I've met, how nice they are, how wise, and, what good directions they are trying to teach me, it was just insane because I enjoyed all of it because it's a good quality of life. Same thing with like the Buddhist side, but I was so much more home with Christianity just a little bit more because, I felt more love from there on a relationship perspective from people. So I was able to bond with people a little bit more strongly. I was able to have stronger relationships, friendships, and just really getting to know people a little bit more in depth just because of that. And so throughout my life, I was kind of getting tested with all those different things with friendships, relationships, to bonding and getting to know Christ. And, of course, the journey started off a little bit rough, but as it went down the road, it started to grow and grow and grow, kind of like a flower. You have a flower, it's getting too big to the point of where the vase can't hold it, so you got to plant it outside. So it was getting to that point, and that's where it led up to last year where I got baptized and I fully accepted Christ and was like, yeah, no, this is my entire life right here. This is amazing because He has helped me see the much bigger picture, which was Jesus and His teachings a little bit more. Yeah.
Well, so you said you had some difficulty kind of starting out. What was that, or how did that come about? Because I feel like a lot of people have difficulties when they're trying to figure out faith, or they're at a place of difficulty, and then that causes them to start to seek faith. So how did you kind of get through that period?
It was the rebellious things. Like I was, like any person that went through the age group that we've all experienced, we're rebellious. We were like, this sounds like we're getting parented all the time, and we can't have fun because we want to be able to go to parties, we want to go have fun, we want to be able to do things that we've never experienced before, and we feel like we're just getting chained down from things that we just can't do because God told us that we can't do it. Jesus told us we can't do it. And so it was a little bit of a rebellious thing because I was like, no, I want to have fun. I want to be able to do, going out, clubbing, because I was a big clubber back then. And now I'm like, no, I'm not, I'm 100 feet away from that.
Yeah.
And just all the other things, getting in relationships and just doing things you're not really supposed to do before marriage. And then, all these other aspects of life that you think is cool, but really it's not. It's just kind of like putting your health in jeopardy and your mental health in jeopardy. So it was a little bit of the rebellious side growing up. And on the second part of it was really, I didn't think Jesus could do a bunch of the things that He could have done, and was kind of like it's kind of unrealistic. This one person can bring somebody back from the dead, or the spirit just comes out of somebody's body. And I was in that belief
Right.
stage. But over time, I realized in a different aspect, like, no, this is actually truth. This is actually more honorable than you might think. This is something that is more holy. It's not just the miracles that he did, but it's the teachings that he brought upon the people to show an example of what it means to, live a more glorified life in a much deeper sense.
Yeah. What kind of things did you do? Okay, you're going through the difficult period where you're clubbing and dating a little bit, and things aren't going super well. What was it that got you back onto trying to actually learn about Jesus more and actually explore his teachings?
It was I would say the biggest part of it was when I faced all those downfalls and was in a state of depression or anxiety and was trying to figure out, how can I find a solution? I wanted to find a solution because, like anyone else, we want to find an answer. And I figured that maybe if I get back into studying the Bible a little bit, studying Jesus and understanding what God's trying to provide, maybe I might get some answers. And I did. And it wasn't until, like I said, like last year, I finally kind of accepted Jesus and was like, no, this is great, because they've been giving me answers. They've been showing me a much better direction and showing me a much better quality of life rather than the quantity of life. Because growing up, many of us want quantity of life, and that can look like we want more quantity time, taking up time with hanging around people, with relationships, with things that doesn't really give us value, versus quality, where we want quality time to be able to bond, to have friendships, to really just engage with others and really have that lifelong saving friendship or relationship that we always ever wanted.
Yeah.
We want quality. And so back then for me, it was all just quantity. And when I finally figured out that quality time with the Bible or the teachings with Jesus and God and with others, if you put quality first, it's going to give you such a much greater aspect of life than you have ever expected, and really engage you into being a much better person. And it will turn you into a much better person. And at the same time, you'll start to see the results follow through. And that's what ended up happening to me, is that everything started to fall into place. And because I switched gears from quantity to quality, and that's the biggest thing that I would say, like, really switched gears for me.
Yeah. What would you say in terms of the difference now in your life versus, maybe even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, before you were a Christian? Like, what's the biggest thing that's different now that you know Jesus compared to before?
Oh man, my attitude, my emotions. When I tell you, like, 3 years ago, even 4 or 5, I had major anger issues. It was bad to the point I punched walls, and there's like big old, like 10-inch wall, like holes in the wall. And I would be very infuriated because I was at that tipping point of just being angry all the time because life is not going the way that I wanted, or things were not just turning out right, or I'm just feel like I'm only just getting the downfall of things or just the negative things. And up until now, I'm like, no, I'm getting positive things. No, this is great. This is awesome. Like, work is turning out great. I have a lot of things going for me right at this current moment that I've always prayed for. I started looking at quality time and quality things because it's put me in a much happier space than quantity, because I don't want to be alone. I don't want to feel lonely. I started switching all those gears, and now at this current moment, I'm just like living life to the best of the ability with a much greater mindset, versus back then where I was just always mad. I was always kind of on the negative side. Some people pointed out to me as like, I was like the bad boy type of person.
Oh,
so
yeah?
I was always like the bad boy type individual. And now I see it. I saw it, and I was like, no, I was.
Yeah.
Because I would always dress up in like this, like, very, like, I don't know what the outfits are, but like certain specific types that identify like bad boy individuals, especially like in a Korean fashion style.
Oh, okay.
So I was always like that, but then now I'm just kind of like chill, I'm relaxed, and like, no, let's work things out. Let's make it happen, and you know, moving forward with life with like happiness and joy, and figuring out solutions that can work.
And you're half Korean, right?
Yeah, half Korean.
Yeah. So I don't think I said that at the beginning.
No, but you said it now though.
Yeah, but I was like dressing up like a Korean, so I was like, oh, that's probably good context for people to know.
No, yeah, growing up, because of like, living in different households, I was heavily influenced on like Korean culture a little bit more, but living that more Christian lifestyle. So it's a different kind of, it's a little confusing how you put those things together, because you think like Korean style and then Christian style it doesn't seem like combined together, but for me, it worked every single day, but it's just a matter of my attitude changing. But,
right.
But no, I still inherit a lot of like Korean cultural things, but still plugging in the Christian lifestyle that I still want to have throughout my life.
Right. And if you could talk to your younger self, Cole, like you when you were, high school, college age, fresh out of college, what advice would you give to 22-year-old Cole?
Keep moving forward, even if things do not fall into your place. Keep moving forward, because eventually they will fall into place, as long as you keep an open mind and you're patient enough with God to be able to let him show you where you want to go. Because when I was younger, especially going through high school and early stages of college, I was so impatient. I was just wanting it now. Like I just wanted to get it over with, or I want to have it right now, would be depressed or have anxiety, and would just be so gung-ho about it. Realizing it now that patience is a key aspect of life in general, it's going to help you so much more in the long run, because patience is key, especially when it comes to like relationships, when it comes to work, when it comes to your hobbies or your self-development. You have to be a little bit patient, because it's not going to happen overnight. If it does, that's a miracle. That's not, that's something that's like, you're more than blessed to have. That's like a wish.
Yeah. Like you won the lottery or something.
No, for real. It's like winning a big time lottery that you never ever had expected.
Right.
But realistically, it's just being patient. And then you have to go in with it with an open mind, saying, okay, I'm willing to be patient, willing to learn. Okay, what can I do now to lead up to it? It's kind of like, you're making an app. Your app's not going to be developed overnight.
Right.
It has to be developed stages. It has to go through different stages. It has to go from wireframe, a low fidelity wireframe to high fidelity wireframe, and all these things. And so same thing with a relationship. You start off relationship by getting to know the person, and then just kind of seeing how things go. You're not pushing them to get married in like 3 months. I've seen things like that happen before, which is still astonishes me.
Yeah.
But you want to have quality at the end of the day, and just like build it up. So it's everything comes with an open mindset and being patient.
Yeah.
And I know that we have a tendency as men, and particularly, we just are so impatient about things a lot of times.
Right.
So it can get a little bit tough. But then when you start to be open-minded and patient a little bit, that's key.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of your relationships, you are single.
Unfortunately. Fortunately.
You got to look at it from the positive, right?
No, absolutely.
I guess what's been different, so the last year you've been a Christian and you're single. What's been different about your view or approach to dating now that you've become a Christian compared to before?
Oof, it's a big difference. The way I look at dating now is on a much more quality bonding basis, where you are focused on finding that quality relationship more than you are just having to be in a relationship, and hopefully it works out through the years for you and your partner. Because if it's one thing that I've learned, is that I want to focus on quality. I want to be able to focus like being patient and being able to understand each other a little bit more thoroughly than just having fun all the time. Because if you want a good quality relationship, especially a godly relationship, you got to be able to focus on being patient and quantifying your quality time with the individual, because a lot of us want to feel loved. We want to be able to be in a romantic relationship. We want to feel intimacy. We want to have physical touch. We want to have romance at times too. But the thing is, though, we have to be patient and find the right individual that will give us that at the same level. So reciprocation, we have to have someone who can reciprocate that very well,
Right.
but still keeping on track that God comes first, because he's going to teach you and show you what a good quality relationship should be and not what it should be. Because there's a lot of times where we fall into this little hole where we want a relationship and it's not a godly one, and we're doing so many wrong things. And, what ends up happening is that, you might accidentally, get an unexpected child, or you might be in a financial debt or a financial burden. You might be in some really bad mental trouble and put you in a state of depression. It's a whole type of mess that you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
So really just getting the quality relationship that you want to be able to have a much stronger bond, and being patient with the process. Don't rush it, but at the same time, listen to the Spirit and let it guide you through this process and really help you lead to where you want to go with it, if it's meant for you. Because God knows better than anybody if this relationship is meant for you or not. He's letting me know plenty of times, and I'm glad about that, to be honest. I'm actually very glad, because he helped let me know, like, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
So how have you been seeking the Spirit's guidance on specifically like relationships?
Man, it's, that's the tough part.
I feel like that's like a lot of people are, they want to be hearing from God. They want to
Right.
know what the Spirit's telling them, but how do people even know to do that?
Right. And you just get like yes or no. You're like, what does that even mean? Like yes or no? Like I want a direct answer. No, but to answer that question is really just being patient with God to allow you to just really being patient with God and letting him show you what you need to see. Because sometimes in a relationship, well, actually not even sometimes, it's most of the time actually, we're so blindsided. We can't really see what's going on until someone like our friends or family or something lets us know, like, oh yeah, there's something going on.
Like with you're blindsided with infatuation,
attraction. Yep. You can go down the list and you can start naming a bunch of it, because the thing is that we get so blindsided because we're so fixated on just the relationship overall. We put the relationship first rather than putting God first. And there's always this saying, it's like always put God first before the relationship. And as much as many of us are like, but we love them, but God's going to teach you how to have a much more greater relationship. He's going to show you like the better directions, how to give them proper love, give them better intimacy, know when's the right time. Because if there's anything that I've learned through this entire process of being in a relationship and listening to the Spirit, was that the Spirit will come at the times when it is most needed of understanding where this relationship is leading to, especially at very crucial moments where big decisions are being made, whether that's getting very intimate with each other, or if it's, leading up to marriage or a breakup, or possibly asking them out to dating and all those. The Spirit will come at the most crucial times and will talk to you. At least for me, when I experienced it, because there are times where I want the Spirit to talk to me because I'm asking God questions and like I want the answer, but I'm not getting any of that because he's leading me up to something that's much more important that he wants me to see. And it's those big arching moments that could basically change the relationship or change the outcome. So he wants to lead up to those crucial moments. And a lot of us will experience this, especially like during times of breakup. He will let us know, like, is it the one? Yes or no? And he will give us clear signs of what we need to do.
Yeah.
So it's just that you're just listening to the Spirit, especially at crucial moments of your life when you're making those big decisions.
How have you sought the Spirit in those big decisions? Like what does that even look like? You're just having a conversation with God, or do you go to like a certain place so people have an idea of what works for you?
For me, how it worked, it was a lot of self-care, a lot of self-development time. So meaning me just being by myself, really isolating and just getting book heavy, reading books, researching on my own, and really finding my own answers through my search. Sometimes I can get it from other people, or I can get it through audible senses, like hearing voices, or through dreams, which I usually get majority of the time. And even your gut senses. I feel like a lot of people get gut senses all the time. And that's another big way. But for me, it was always self-care. I have always figured that at one point, self-care was going to come at a much positive aspect for me, because I've always done that for years. And I now realize that, this is how the Spirit is talking to me. I do a lot of self-care.
Okay.
So
what does that mean, self-care?
Self-care, reading books, going traveling, hiking, doing things that are primarily by yourself. By yourself, then you are not accompanied by anyone else. You are on your own adventure. For example, I was going through some stuff, and then and before the end of 2023, and one day I was driving around 285, and I heard this voice, go to Grand Canyon. I literally listened to it. I got up the next morning, went to the Grand Canyon. I drove there 2,000 miles all the way over to the Grand Canyon.
No, you didn't.
I did.
From Georgia?
From Atlanta, Georgia, all the way. No, actually, Woodstock, Georgia, all the way over to the Grand Canyon over in Arizona. Then I decided to make a pit stop at Las Vegas because there was New Year's there. So I was like, okay, it's only 3 hours away, so I might as well go to Las Vegas and do New Year's over there. Of course, I didn't watch the fireworks. But no, I went all the way over there, and it was the most rejuvenating thing that I have ever experienced in my entire life. And it reverted me back to me being my most happiest self ever. And then coming back from Georgia, I became a new enhanced self. And when I say that is that I'm still happy with my old self, but my old self has some new critiques. It has some new things going on. So that's what I mean by self-care, is that you're taking time to yourself to be able to find who you are and listen to what's around yourself rather than from others or from signs or anything. You're taking time to yourself. You're taking time to self-care. And so that's my thing of getting connected with the Spirit for me. So I wanted to make sure that self-care for me was through that. Just traveling, through reading books, and just really taking emphasis on, okay, it's my care time.
Yeah. That's something that we see throughout the Gospels, right? Jesus would often withdraw to lonely places to pray, to spend time with the Father.
The biggest one was when he went out 40 days in the desert with no food and water. He was fasting.
Yeah.
It was the 40-day thing that he did, and he met Satan a couple of times. That was the biggest one. Yeah. And so that's the type of self-care that I always always end up doing, because that's a prime example of what Jesus did. Like one of my favorite Bible quotes is Philippians 1:21. To live is like Christ, to die is to gain. So you're living your life a little bit like Christ. So I'm always inspired by what Christ does. And then like, okay, I want to try seeing how he did it, like fasting or like self-care or preaching or kind of inspiring and motivating people. Live a little bit of example of what Christ lived like, and you'll start to see that change. You start to see that development, and then you'll start to see how the Spirit works with you as well. For me, it was always self-care. For others, it can be something else that I wouldn't even know.
Right. That's great. Yeah, I think if we're trying to base our life off someone, right, that's done it the right way or done it well, we should be taking our guide from God in the flesh, Jesus, who came to earth. And he lived a perfect life without sin. So if we're going to model our life off of anybody, you'd think you'd want to, okay, maybe I should see what that guy Jesus did when he was on earth. Right,
because you want a good role model. You want a good role model. That's what you want. Because a lot of us guys is growing up, especially when I was younger, because I wish I had realized this sooner, is that we want good role models that inspire us to be much better than who we are right now. Yeah. I recently had a friend of mine ask me, like, who's your role model? I'm like, I could say Jesus, but realistic for a human person that's living, I could not give you a direct answer.
Yeah.
Because that's a tough question. Because if you ask, like, if you want a role model like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, or you want like the Patrick Mahomes, or
Right.
so it's going to be hard because
You'll never actually get to talk to them ever.
right, you'll never get to talk to them. Is that the lifestyle that you truly want to have, or is that the mentality? I mean, your character changes over time. You know, you are adjusting to new environments, you're adjusting to new emotions, you're going to constantly change. And so we're living in this world of change. So having a physical role model who's living in the current time is a little bit hard versus someone who has lived in the past time and he's made it all the way to the top. And he's sitting on the kingdom right now and he's living it up for like who all goes inside along with him.
Right.
So you have to like
At the right hand of the Father.
absolutely. Oh my gosh. I can't express that enough. Right hand of the Father.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's one thing that I hope that this podcast will do for guys, right, that listen is, okay, starting to see examples of single men, guys that are following Jesus. Okay, they're actual tangible people out here, right? Instead of just, I don't know anybody that's doing it. You know, I'm trying to do it on my own. I don't have any friends. I don't have any mentors. I don't have any advisors I can look up to. And somebody could, you know, resonate with your story, Cole. Someone could hopefully resonate with my story, right? Some of the other guys that we've had on the podcast, and just be able to be like, okay, if they're doing it and it's working out well for them, like this is an actual person that's living right now. I can model my life and have some more inspiration from someone like a Cole, like a Carlton. So I think that's great.
No, it's amazing because you want the right influence in your life. You don't want the bad influence because you know, a lot of times, you know, this whole new generation I keep seeing is they want to go into, I won't say the actual word, I'll say like F-boy type. They want to go into that scenario sometimes because, you know, they feel so degraded when they can't get a relationship going, or like, you know, people look down on them and stuff. And so they result into this like higher life of like getting money, you know, going clubbing, just buying unnecessary things, doing unnecessary things. And you don't want to have that type of influence where people are always encouraging that type of lifestyle, where it's always like partying, clubbing, spending a lot of money, making a lot of money, and spending more than what you have. And, you know, you're not really essentially having quality time of life. You're just setting yourself up to have a more emotional life down the road. And you're going to realize that, you know, you made a lot of mistakes at the end of it. That's unfortunately what's going to end up happening for a lot of people who go down that road. They're going to start regretting it, because I've met people that are like that who went down that road, and it's, you know, seeing them now, I'm like, man, it's still surprises me, because you don't want to go down that road and have the wrong role models. You want to have the right role models that can help encourage you, and you can get the things that you want a little bit sooner than later because you're taking that right direction.
You can learn from someone who's already done it.
Right. You want to be able to learn from people who've done it and who've been through that track, and is telling you now, like, yeah, don't trust me, don't do it.
Learn from my mistakes so you don't have to go through the same thing.
Right. That's the one thing I've always ever wanted growing up, is having someone that I can talk to and say, yeah, don't do what I did, so I want you to do it better. Okay, I'll listen. I'll do it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And in terms of dating, so last question I'll ask you about dating. In terms of your, you know, being single now, like, how are you staying content being single as a 26-year-old, you know, following Jesus, trying to figure out life, and what's keeping you grounded at the end of the day?
Man, do I want to be content? No, I'm just kidding. No, it's the biggest thing for me is the way I'm being content, why I'm being so grounded, you know, being single, is because I'm focusing on myself and the quality relationship. Again, it goes back to quality and quantity, because that's my biggest emphasis for this year, when coming into the whole new year.
Yeah.
Because quality, you're essentially giving yourself much greater things that is going to benefit you in the long run for a longer lifetime than quantity, because you want to have something that's everlasting, that's, you know, going to make it way past than what you hope to expect. And you just want to have something that you can fully be yourself at the end of the day, because quality is going to give you that in all retrospects, it's going to give you that as much as you want it. As long as you focus on yourself, focus on what you can do right now, and then just keeping your head up with an open mindset, saying, okay, I'm willing to learn, where can I get to it? And just keep on pushing and trying, and then never giving up, because as soon as you give up, as soon as you start going to other directions, as soon as you start, thinking about quantity, it's going to revert you back to what you previously done, or it's going to keep you in that same spot. And you're going to keep asking yourself this question: why am I still here? Why am I still doing this? Why can I not improve? It's because mentally you haven't really set yourself up to where you have a sit down one-on-one talk. I really want to change. I really want to do this, and really engaging on, making that improvement, getting that quality. Like, for example, for me, I get up around 5-6 a.m. in the morning, sometimes 4:30 a.m. in the morning. I do this thing of meditation in bed. I'll lay back and just meditate. I won't get up and do the crisscross applesauce thing, but I'll meditate and I'll pray. And then what I'll do, I'll read scripture, read one chapter, and then I will then go to workout. And then I've already gotten from between early morning up until around 7:00 when I have to leave to go to work. And then I go to work and then get stuff done, and I have all the other projects, because is that I'm focusing on myself and what I want for quality, because I want to have a much better quality life than a quantity life. Because if it's one thing I've learned that a good friend has helped me with, is that you need to have a minimalistic life. Minimize the things that are not benefiting you that was in the past, and focus on the quality of life that you want currently right now, that can help you improve on a day-to-day basis and not revert you back to your old self.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, if I have to give it as a takeaway.
Okay. Well, so let's say somebody doesn't know even where to start with that. What would be like one simple thing that somebody could implement this next week?
If it's one thing, if I tell you where you should start, go ahead and ask yourself the what, why, when, and where questions, and how, and then start researching what you can do, and even start listening from other people like this podcast, or reading books. Dig deep into knowledge. That's where you need to start. Don't just sit back and watch TV, play video games, or hang out with friends, and you're not really taking self-care to yourself.
Right.
You need to have self-care of learning, because knowledge is key too. We have to be curious about what we want to improve in our lives. We want to be able to gain quality life than quantity life. We want to be able to figure out how can we improve. So you got to be kind of eager to know. You got to have that drive to be curious. So seek it out. Do as much as you can. Read books, podcasts, YouTube videos, research on Wiki or other places.
Yeah.
Maybe not Wiki, but maybe other places.
Right.
But just do a lot of research. Take time to yourself. That's where you need to start. You can even ask people that people overall who you think is a good example of a good positive life. Ask for their opinion, what you can do.
Right.
And the biggest thing too, I think a lot of people might disagree, but I agree 100%. Take in positive criticism all the time. Do not take criticism in a negative way. Take it as a positive criticism, because it's going to help you in the long run of things when you want to self-improve yourself every single time. And it is going to spark a lot of interest, not just from other people, but with you, because you start to realize, oh, I have the ability to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Not all the things that I'm limited to.
Right. So great. I think that your response, Cole, had me thinking about Matthew 7:7. Ask and it will be given to you.
Yeah.
Seek and you'll find. Knock and the door will be opened.
Right. No,
I feel like that's something that we can do as men. You know, I don't know how to take the first step, Carlton. I don't know how to take the first step, Cole. You could just ask God. God, what do you think I should do this week? What's one simple thing I can do today?
Exactly.
So just want to leave the audience with that. I think that was great wisdom, Cole. Thank you for coming on and sharing about your story and how you're navigating dating and being a single man in Atlanta. I think it's going to really resonate well with the audience.
No, I love it. It was a pleasure. It was awesome. I just hope that, many men out there that can take this, hope that they can take this advice and learn from it, and hopefully they'll be able to have a starting point with their life as well.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I appreciate everybody listening this week. If this episode encouraged you and you think Cole's story would resonate with someone that you know, I would encourage you to shoot them a text, shoot them the link to the podcast, tell them to check out the YouTube video, and we will see you back next Friday for next week's episode. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Single Man Podcast. If someone you know would benefit from this week's episode, I'd love for you to text them the link and invite them to listen. You never know how a simple invitation could change someone's life. We'll be back next Friday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, with a new episode. Until then, check out the video version of the podcast on YouTube, and you can engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.